Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving straight into the heart of Chinese tech with a really crucial concept, BA.
That's BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent.
Exactly. Now, we often talk about the GAFA giants here, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and you can sort of think of B as their Chinese counterparts.
hmm
But, unlike the power dynamic with GAFA in the West, which is maybe a bit more spread out, BT's influence in China often feels, well, deeper. More entrenched, maybe. It seems to permeate almost everything digital.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you listening in, if you want to quickly get a real handle on these vital tech landscapes, but without, getting lost in the weeds,
Right.
this deep dive is pretty much designed for that.
So our mission today is to really understand why BAT still feels like such an important way to look at China's internet. I mean, even with all the new players popping up and things changing so fast,
Right.
we're drawing on a really insightful article, vol.033, of a series that focuses on key concepts for understanding Chinese IT.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What is BA exactly at its core?
Well, fundamentally, BIT stands for the three historically most dominant tech companies in China. Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. Simple as that,
Yeah.
initially.
Okay.
And for a long time, they consistently held the top three spots in the China IT Company 100 strong ranking.
Ah, right, that big annual list.
Yeah, exactly. It's put out by the China Internet Association and the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, so it carries some weight.
Sure.
And being at the top year after year, that really cemented their status. They were the undisputed titans of Chinese tech. For a good while, anyway.
So the undisputed big three. But the article suggests that maybe talking about buy feels a bit old-fashioned now, outdated.
Yeah, there's definitely that feeling and a growing argument that the term might be outdated.
What's challenging that picture?
Well, a couple of things. One is Baidu. Their revenue growth has slowed down in recent years compared to the others,
Okay.
which makes some people question if they really still belong in that absolute top tier alongside Alibaba and Tencent. And then, of course, you've got these other huge companies that have emerged, really significant players.
Like Huawei, yeah. The article mentions the massive manufacturing giant, not even publicly listed.
Precisely. And get this, Huawei's revenue, just on its own, is comparable to the entire BT group combined.
Wow. Seriously? Yeah.
Puts their scale into perspective, doesn't it?
It really does.
So, because of that, some have suggested, maybe half-jokingly, maybe not, that we should talk about H for Huawei.
HAT instead of bait. Interesting.
And beyond Huawei, there's the rise of this newer generation, often called TMD.
Right, TMD, that's Tuqiao. Oh, ByteDance now, Meituan, and Didi.
Exactly. And ByteDance especially, with its incredible growth, TikTok globally,
Yeah, massive.
has even led some people to suggest, hey, maybe ByteDance should replace Baidu in the BADI acronym.
Wow, okay. So yeah, looking at just size and growth, it's clearly not just those original three anymore. But the article still argues strongly that Beiti matters. Why is that?
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Even if the actual rankings at the very top are shifting around,
Mm-hmm.
BAT remains absolutely central because of their strategic investments. Over the years, these three have just been incredibly active funders.
Ah,
They've strategically aligned with and poured money into a huge number of other Chinese tech companies. You often hear companies described as being part of the Baidu, Alibaba, or Tencent.
okay. What does that mean?
It basically means system or affiliated with.
Yeah.
So these companies are seen as part of Baidu's ecosystem or Alibaba's or Tencent's through funding or close partnerships.
Got it. So it's like these giants have their own constellations of companies orbiting them. The article gives some really vivid examples of this playing out, right? Those intense wars, ride sharing, food delivery.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the ride-sharing battles between Didi and Kuaiti.
Mm.
That was fierce.
I remember that.
Didi was heavily backed by Tencent. Kuaiti had Alibaba's money behind it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just Didi versus Kuaiti, it was Tencent's ecosystem versus Alibaba's.
A proxy war, almost.
Kind of, yeah. And the same thing happened with food delivery. You had Ellie.me, backed by Alibaba, fighting tooth and nail with Meituan, which had Tencent support.
And Baidu had their Waimai in there for a bit too, right?
They did, yeah. Baidu Raimai was in the mix. These were just brutal fights for market share, often fueled directly by the deep pockets of the Baidu companies.
Okay, so their influence through investments is still huge. But the article points to something else, maybe even more fundamental, for why BAT is still key. Their control over internet traffic. Can you break that down?
Absolutely. And this, I think, is the core insight. At its heart, what's the internet business model about? It's about attracting users, attracting traffic, right?
Right, getting eyeballs.
Getting eyeballs, and then figuring out how to distribute that traffic, that attention, in a way that makes money. Think about Google.
Sure, search and ads.
Exactly. They provide great search, attract tons of traffic, and then they monetize by sending users, distributing them to other websites via advertising. And this concentration of traffic,
Yeah.
it doesn't just shape competition, it also creates huge challenges, but also opportunities for startups in China.
Yeah.
You almost have to align with one of the big players to get noticed.
So it really is about being the gateway, the first place people go. And the argument is BAT still holds the keys to the major gateways in China.
That's precisely it.
Huh.
Historically, they very effectively carved out distinct territories, different kinds of gateways for internet traffic.
Okay, like what?
Baidu became dominant search. That's the information gateway.
How'd they manage that?
Well, they were early in the Chinese market, focused really heavily on localization, and navigated the competition, including Google, effectively.
Makes sense.
Alibaba became a king of e-commerce. That's the purchasing gateway.
Okay.
And Tencent, with its enormous social networking traffic, SNS traffic, they call it through QQ, and WeChat.
Yeah.
They control the communication gateway.
And how did Tencent lock that down?
Just compelling features, really good user experience, and crucially, they got big on mobile early.
Right. The article uses that Three Kingdoms analogy for Chinese internet traffic. What's that about?
Yeah, it's a great comparison to that historical period in China, Wei, Wu, and Xu. Each bad company built up a strong, defensible territory,
Their own kingdom.
pretty much. And while they mostly respected each other's borders, stayed in their lane,
Uh-huh.
there were definitely occasional skirmishes, border incursions, intense battles when one tried to push into another's territory.
Right.
And that constant push and pull has really defined the competitive landscape over there.
So these different types of traffic search, e-commerce, social enterpoof, they have different characteristics, different dynamics. The article suggests social network traffic, Tencent's turf, is particularly strong. Why is that?
Yeah, the stickiness of social traffic is fascinating
Yeah.
because you use these platforms for communication, for relationships.
Yeah, your friends are there.
Exactly. Once a dominant player emerges, like WeChat, it becomes incredibly hard for users to switch, even if some technically better app comes along.
You can't get everyone to move.
Right. It's the network effect. The
Yeah.
platform's value comes from everyone else being there. It creates this massive barrier for competitors. It's just easier to stay put.
That makes total sense. You're locked in a way. What about e-commerce traffic then? Alibaba's domain, the article says, is relatively weaker, more vulnerable. How so?
Well, thinking about that traffic distribution idea again,
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce is kind of the odd one out.
Okay.
Search engines and social networks often make money by sending traffic away to advertisers to other sites.
Right.
But e-commerce platforms like Alibaba's Taobao or Amazon here, they need to keep the traffic. They want you to stay, browse, discover, and buy right there.
Ah, okay. They don't want you clicking away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes them potentially vulnerable if, say, a search engine or a social network starts integrating shopping features really well. They could pull users away before they even get to the e-commerce site.
So for most internet businesses, gather traffic, then distribute it. For e-commerce, dock your traffic, then retain it. Keep it inside.
That's the crucial distinction, yeah.
Okay. And the article then goes into how Alibaba specifically defended its e-commerce turf over the years, starting with that early fight against eBay in China.
Yeah, this is a classic story. How do you, as a smaller local player, take on a global giant like eBay?
Good question.
So back in 2003, Alibaba launched Taobao. eBay was already there with its Chinese arm, Yikinet. And eBay charged fees, listing fees, transaction fees.
Standard practice, really.
Right. But Taobao came in with this killer strategy. Free. Everything was free. No listing fees, no transaction fees.
Wow, that must have been a total game changer for sellers.
Absolutely. Sellers flocked to Taobao because, well, it didn't cost them anything.
Sure.
And more sellers meant way more products, more variety, which attracted more buyers. Taobao just exploded. But obviously, free isn't sustainable forever.
Right, they had to make money eventually. How did they do that? The article mentions this Zakai Jinbai system.
Yeah.
And some backlash.
Yeah, so in 2006, Taobao introduced Zhaokai Jinbao. Basically, sellers could pay to get their products listed higher in Taobao's internal search results.
Ah, paid search ranking within Taobao itself.
Exactly. You could still list for free,
Yeah.
but you'd be buried. And this caused a huge backlash. Merchants saw it as basically a price hike after being promised free.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, there were protests, sellers pulling money out of Alipay, which was linked to Taobao. It sounds like it was a really tense period.
I bet. And then Tencent decided to jump into e-commerce too, right? With PaiPai.com leveraging QQ.
That's right. Seeing how lucrative e-commerce was becoming, Tencent thought, hey, we've got this massive QQ user base, let's leverage that.
Makes sense.
So they launched PaiPai.com. And their strategy was interesting. They also offered free listings and transactions like early Taobao.
Okay.
But their differentiator was integrating QQ. Sellers could chat directly with buyers via QQ, which built trust. And importantly, instead of paid ranking like Taobao was moving towards, PaiPai ranked sellers based on their credibility score.
That sounds pretty good, actually. Better than paying to be at the top.
It seemed like a really smart approach, right? A win-win compared to Taobao's controversial paid system. It definitely looked like a real challenge to Alibaba.
So if it was such a good system on paper, why did PaiPai ultimately fail to really compete with Taobao? Jack Ma apparently had some harsh words.
He did. Jack Ma was very dismissive, publicly accusing Tencent of just copying, lacking real innovation. He basically predicted PaiPai would fail.
Ouch.
And, well, he was right. PaiPai got some traction, maybe 9% market share at its peak, but it couldn't sustain it.
Why not?
The article suggests a key reason might have been focus. Perhaps Tencent's main goal with PaiPai wasn't necessarily to win e-commerce, but primarily to drive more engagement and growth for its core platform, QQ.
Ah, so e-commerce was secondary to boosting the social network.
Possibly. Once PaiPai served that purpose of getting more QQ activity, maybe the full commitment needed to truly build a massive standalone e-commerce giant just wasn't there.
Interesting.
It seems like a lesson, maybe, that just having a huge existing user base isn't enough.
Yeah.
You still need that dedicated focus and innovation for the new market you're entering.
Right. So a lack of singular focus might have doomed PaiPai. Okay, the article then talks about Alibaba bouncing back with Taobao Mall, which became Tmall, and also how they dealt with Baidu trying to get into e-commerce with Yua.
Yeah, so after the backlash with the paid rankings on the original Taobao, which was mostly C2C, consumer to consumer, Alibaba launched Taobao Mall in 2008. This was different.
How so?
It was B2C, business to consumer. Focused on more established brands, higher quality goods, merchants had to put down significant deposits. It signaled a move towards trust and premium quality, and it worked. Became very successful as Tmall.
Okay. And Baidu's attempt, Yua.
Right. Around the same time, Baidu thought, we dominate search traffic. Let's leverage that for e-commerce. So they launched their own C2C platform, Yua.
That sounds like a direct threat to Taobao. If Baidu's search results favored Baidu's own shopping site.
Exactly. A lot of traffic still came from search engines. People search for red shoes. Baidu shows Yua listings first. They might never even get to Taobao.
So how did Taobao react? What was their countermove?
It was incredibly bold. Taobao blocked Baidu's web crawlers.
Blocked the crawlers. What does that mean, practically?
Web crawlers are what search engines like Baidu use to automatically find and index websites.
Oh.
By blocking Baidu's crawler, Taobao essentially made its product listings invisible to Baidu's search.
Oh.
If you search Baidu for a specific product even today, you probably won't find a direct link to buy it on Taobao. Maybe the Taobao homepage or blog posts about it, but not the product page itself.
But wouldn't that kill their traffic from Baidu? That sounds incredibly risky.
You'd think so.
Ugh.
But here's the crucial part. By that point, Taobao had cultivated such strong brand loyalty that an estimated 80% of its traffic was direct.
80%? People just typing Taobao.com or using bookmarks.
Exactly. Only about 20% came from search engines, and Baidu was only a part of that smaller slice. So Alibaba calculated that losing that Baidu traffic was worth it to prevent Baidu from siphoning off users to Yua.
And force users to come directly to Taobao instead.
Precisely. And it worked. People already knew and trusted Taobao, so they kept going there directly. Yua, starved of Taobao's massive product inventory and its search results, just couldn't get traction. It eventually shut down in 2013.
That's fascinating. Taobao's direct traffic was its shield. The article also mentions Taobao blocking WeChat URLs later. Smaller reason.
Very similar logic, yeah. WeChat was exploding, becoming the mobile platform. Alibaba saw the potential danger.
Danger how?
Well, if people could easily share Taobao links in WeChat, click through, maybe even buy things using Tencent's WeChat Pay without leaving WeChat.
Ah, Taobao loses control of the user journey and the data.
Exactly. It represented potential traffic leakage and also prop up Tencent's own payment system and potential future e-commerce plays within WeChat. So Alibaba blocked those WeChat links too, trying to keep its ecosystem sealed off.
But Tencent didn't end up building his own huge Taobao killer inside WeChat, did they? They went the partnership route.
They did. Instead of building another PaiPai, Tencent made strategic investments in existing e-commerce players, most notably JD.com, and later, the phenomenon that is Pinduoduo.
Right.
And they integrated access to these platforms within WeChat. So you can browse JD or Pinduoduo, share links with friends, and buy stuff, often without ever leaving the WeChat app.
Clever. Leveraging their social dominance without having to build the entire e-commerce infrastructure from scratch again.
Exactly. A much more effective way to play in the e-commerce space using their core strength,
Yeah.
social traffic.
So this brings us to the article's conclusion that Alibaba Taobao, and maybe Amazon too, operates like an isolated continent on the internet. Can you unpack that idea in terms of traffic?
Yeah, what's significant is that Alibaba, like Amazon, their whole goal is direct traffic and keeping users inside their walled garden.
Right. Maximize time on site, maximize purchases there.
Unlike search and social, which often profit from sending users elsewhere, Alibaba's model depends on internal retention. So they actively build walls, blocking Baidu crawlers, blocking WeChat links to minimize leakage and maximize engagement within their own territory, their island or continent.
Okay. So wrapping this all together, the reason the term bait still resonates, despite newcomers and shifting ranks, it's not just about size anymore. It's about how these three fundamentally shaped and largely still control the flow of internet traffic in China. They built the kingdom.
Precisely. Their historical dominance over those key traffic gateways, search, e-commerce, social, and the competitive dynamics that resulted from that structure, that's why BT remains such a crucial concept for understanding the Chinese internet. It's the foundation.
Although the article does note the ground is shifting now, isn't it? With things like social e-commerce, Pinduoduo, Yunji successfully blending those domains.
Absolutely. Pinduoduo is a prime example of leveraging social WeChat traffic for e-commerce in a way that really challenges the old boundaries.
And Alibaba knows it's weak on the social side, right? Trying to add social features to DingTalk, its work app, and Alipay.
They're definitely trying to shore up that flank. It shows the Three Kingdoms structure isn't static, it's evolving, the lines are blurring, the balance of power might be shifting again.
So the key takeaway from this deep dive seems to be, if you want to understand tech competition in China, you have to understand how Beat historically controlled and largely still influences internet traffic.
That's the core insight, yes.
Mm.
Even as the landscape changes, BAT provides that essential framework, that historical context.
It really does.
And maybe a final thought, something provocative for you to consider. How might this balance of power between search, e-commerce, and social continue to shift? Not just in China, but potentially in other markets too. What are the implications of these traffic wars, these walled gardens for businesses, for innovation, and for us as consumers globally?
Yeah, that's definitely something to chew on. Are we seeing similar dynamics play out elsewhere? Fascinating stuff.